FTX, a cryptocurrency exchange, has a historic meltdown. I'm Marco Perry. Welcome to the Perry Platform. So, what's a cryptocurrency exchange? Simply put, it's a platform that lets clients trade cash for cryptocurrency. You can also trade crypto for other crypto, or even do something called staking, which is a form of locked-in deposit where you earn interest. Very similar to a traditional stock trading platform. And FTX, the company of discussion today, was one of the biggest ones in the world. Millions of people used FTX. Now imagine something like TD or RBC having a meltdown. That's the caliber of scale that we're talking about. Now there's one very important fact that you have to know for the rest of the story to make sense to you. Many people treat these exchanges as if they are some type of holding company. They will buy cryptocurrency and leave it on the exchange, or they'll deposit money into the exchange and leave it there, as if it's a bank account, for example. So, what happened? First, you have to get some background. FTX created a crypto token of their own. It was called FTT, and users could pay exchange fees with it. So, for example, if I put money on the crypto exchange, FTX, and I want to buy Bitcoin, there's a fee associated with that, and I would pay that fee using FTT. A similar theoretical situation would be if I created something like a Perry token and I allowed you to exchange it for podcast downloads or something like that. But at the same time, you could put that Perry token up on the crypto trading platform and sell it to somebody. If somebody could purchase it off you, they could then use it to buy that podcast download. Or the user could buy it from me. And this is how you create a supply and demand market. It's a free exchange. Now, given this, and FTX being probably the second largest crypto exchange in the world, people would just buy the FTT token not because they had to pay a fee, but because they thought it would appreciate as the company continued to grow. Now, the second factor, another large crypto exchange company called Binance is involved here. So the owner of Binance was once a partner with FTX. When he sold his stake back to FTX, he was partially paid out in FTT tokens. Third, recently, the owner of Binance publicly announced that he would sell all of his FTT tokens due to a quote-unquote recent revelation. Now keep in mind though, that this is quite interesting. It was a major deal flaw for FTX to pay out a competitor in FTT tokens, because they can do something like tank the market. If I had a competitor who I didn't like, and they paid me out billions of tokens for their company, I could then turn around and unleash the billions of tokens into the market and destroy the currency. And I'm just kind of foreshadowing here because this is where things get hairy. The average person saw that announcement from the owner of Binance and they got nervous. They became worried. They thought to themselves, well, if the owner of Binance is about to dump billions of FTT tokens into the market, it's obviously going to crash the price. After all, it's supply and demand. There's going to be far too much supply, and it's going to drive prices down. So, what should people do? Well, they tried to liquidate all of their FTT tokens so they wouldn't be left holding these worthless tokens at the bottom. Funny enough, though, that just speeds up the devaluing process. This then sparked further fears. Since FTX relied so heavily on their FTT tokens, they inflated their balance sheets with it. And obviously, this is what happens when a company can just generate tokens out of their bum. What would happen to this company next really is predictable. People are going to do more than just sell their FTT tokens. They were worried that this organization, having their major asset lose all its valuation overnight, would make them not workable. So, people wanted to withdraw all of their holdings, all of their crypto, and all of their cash. And if you recall, people were using this service like a bank. They had a lot of money locked up in there. So, users in droves went to FTX and they submitted requests for withdrawals. FTX was faced with over $6 billion worth of requests for withdrawals over 3 days. Now, this shouldn't have been too much of a problem, right? After all, these are people's deposits. It's their money. All you have to do is give back what they gave to you. Well, it turns out that FTX wasn't just holding your money. They were leveraging it, gambling it on risky crypto investments, and ones that were not quickly solvable at that. They couldn't just convert it back to cash at the flip of a switch. So, now when people came knocking for their money back, there was nothing to give. FTX could not meet their commitment. Now, interestingly enough, and this is a side note, even a traditional bank like RBC or TD, they could easily find themselves in a similar situation because they do the exact same thing. They don't just hold your deposits as 100% of the value you've given to them. They take most of it and use it to make more money for themselves through investments and loan issuing. So now here comes Binance again, and they see this disaster, which honestly they partially caused, or, well, there was shady stuff happening in the background. They kind of just brought it to the light, and they say, or the owner of Binance says, I'm going to put in an offer to buy out FTX. This is a disaster, and I'm going to save the day. And just keep in mind too how silly it was for FTX to give Binance that much capital over their token. So, a few days later though, the Binance owner changes his mind. He comes forward and says, well, after reviewing their financial documents, this deal is totally off. They're not savable. It's clear that there is a lot of financial mismanagement happening here, and we're backing out. So if there was any hope of a buyout before even from another company, it dissipated. Now there was no clear solution for FTX, so they declared bankruptcy, and millions of people are screwed, with very little hope of getting their money back. Many people's lives have been destroyed as a result. I've been reading stories. People who put in a lot of money into crypto, and to have disappear like that, that's insane. So there are some learning outcomes to share here. The first one is something I talked about before. The model that these crypto exchanges were using is actually quite similar to the banking system, but they have no bailout support. The government is not going to bail out this exchange. They would for a bank. And this is the overarching problem with crypto. There are very few regulations. It is a wild west. In other words, it's very risky. So, one thing that you should do if you choose to dabble in crypto is do not trust any exchange. Never leave your coins or your money on them. Always withdraw it. If you buy Bitcoin, take it off the exchange and put it on a cold wallet. If you have money in there, do not leave it in there. Just transfer the amount that you need to and always withdraw the excess. The exchanges are not as solid as banks, so you should not confuse yourself into thinking that you should be doing banking procedures on there. Simply do the transaction and take everything off. The next tip comes with the inherent risk of cryptocurrency. These swings are wild. Of course, you can make something like 15 to 20% in one day, but you can lose 15 to 20% in one day. And this is honestly something that happens quite frequently. So, you should never gamble with money that you cannot afford to lose in crypto. There is a very real possibility that you lose most of the value that you've invested. And it is heartbreaking, some of these stories that are coming out here. People who've invested their education money, their retirement money, all of their job income into crypto because they think it's the next big thing, because they think it'll get them financial freedom. But in the end, what it's got them is nothing, because FTX has squandered that opportunity. And not to mention, this has tanked the entire crypto market. Everything is down right now because people are losing trust in the institution and the currencies. If you get me talking about crypto in general, I do think it's interesting, but you have to be very careful. The idea of being decentralized saves you from government intervention and seizure, but you also have no supporting structure there. If something bad happens, you're kind of on your own. And more general advice is that you should never FOMO, fear of missing out. Just because you see people who've made 500% on their Bitcoin investment doesn't mean that you can do the same thing. Now, at the end of the day, I do hope that international courts or whoever has the power can hold this company accountable. What happened here is a complete bastardization of justice and due process. People shouldn't be left out of their own money and investments. I do hope there is a way for people to regain at least a portion of their invested capital, but we will see. Things do look pretty grim right now. And with that, it does bring us to the end of our conversation for today. If you enjoyed the material, be sure to leave a review and share. And you can find me on social media at Perry Platform and online at perryplatform.org. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.